Welcome to Cosmic Tales Bonus, where we step back from the individual stories and look at the bigger picture. The main episodes are about the myths and science written into specific constellations. These bonus episodes zoom out, past the standard myths and into the larger patterns that connect the same stars across different cultures, different hemispheres, and thousands of years of people looking up and finding meaning. Same sky, different angles. I'm Diana, and let's get into it. Tonight's episode is a little different from our usual format. We are, instead, catching up on stories. Every main episode involves choices. There are always more myth than time, more traditions than can fit into a single episode, more ways of reading the same stars than any one half hour can hold. The Ursa Major episode covered Callisto, the Mi'kmaq hunters, the Arabic traditions, the Underground Railroad, and still left things out. The Ursa Minor episode covered Arcus, the nymphs who guarded Zeus, the Egyptian imperishable ones, and also left things out. The Crux episode had the same problem. These are those things, the stories that didn't make the cut, not because they were less interesting, but because the episodes were already full. 3 traditions, 3 constellations, 3 stories worth telling. Let's begin. We will start with the Cheyenne tradition and the Big Dipper because the Cheyenne looked at the same 7 stars and saw something entirely different from the Greeks, the Mi'kmaq, the Arabs, or any of the other traditions covered in the main episode. They saw a girl and her brothers and how they came to leave the earth behind. The Quillwork Girl was extraordinarily skilled at the ancient art of decorating buckskin clothing and moccasins with dyed, softened porcupine quills, long before glass beads arrived on the plains. Though she had no brothers of her own, she found herself compelled to make 7 sets of clothing from white buckskin, each one embroidered with quill work. She didn't know exactly who they belonged to, only that somewhere out there were 7 brothers who were meant to have them. So when the work was finished, she went to find the men they belonged to. She came upon a large teepee where the youngest of 7 brothers greeted her as though he'd been expecting her, because, in a way, he had. They had dreamed of each other. She gave him his set of clothes, which fit perfectly. Together, they placed the remaining 6 sets on the brothers' beds, and she began cooking for the family she had somehow always known she had. When the older brothers returned to find the clothes and this girl who had made them, they adopted her as their sister without a second thought. For a time, life was peaceful. Then the Buffalo Nation decided it wanted her. It started small. A buffalo calf arrived and demanded the girl be handed over. The youngest brother refused. The calf left, warning that something bigger would come. True to its word, a heifer arrived the next day and was refused again. Then a cow, and refused again. By now, the brothers understood this was becoming serious. On the 4th day, none of them went hunting. The biggest buffalo bull any of them had ever seen arrived, backed by the entire Buffalo Nation, and issued an ultimatum: surrender the girl or be destroyed. The older brothers were terrified. It was the youngest who stepped forward and said no. The girl and her brothers climbed into a nearby tree. The youngest drew a magic arrow and shot the trunk. The tree rocketed upward. The bull charged. The tree shook. The brother shot the tree again, and it shot up higher still. One final shot sent the tree up through the clouds, and in that last moment before the bull's horns cut clean through the trunk and sent it crashing to earth, they stepped off into the sky. They couldn't get back down, so the youngest brother turned them into stars. The 7 brothers became the Big Dipper. The Quillwork Girl became the brightest star among them, still there, still with her brothers, still wearing the sky like something she made herself. What strikes you about this story, set alongside the other Big Dipper traditions, is what it is not. It is not a tragedy. It is not a punishment. It is not a chase or a hunt or a divine intervention gone wrong. It is a family that stayed together, a girl who went looking for the people she always meant to be with and found them. And when the world tried to take her from them, they refused to let it. The sky in this tradition is not where you end up after things go wrong. It's where you end up when you hold on long enough. We now go from the Cheyenne Plains to the Indian subcontinent, because the Hindu tradition also has two interconnected stories written into the same northern sky, and they are among the most quietly beautiful in the entire series. In Hindu astronomy, the Big Dipper carries a name far more dignified than a soup spoon: the Saptarishi, or the Seven Sages. Each of its 7 stars represents one of the great rishis of ancient Hindu tradition. Not merely wise men, but creators of knowledge, guardians of cosmic order, and in some traditions, mind-born sons of Brahma himself. Which is a considerably more impressive resume than most constellation figures can claim. The most beautiful detail in this tradition lies in a single pair of stars. Mizar, forming part of the Dipper's handle, is associated with a sage Vasishta, the same Vasishta we talked about in episode 3. Right beside it, the faint companion star Alcor represents his wife Arundhati, a symbol of loyalty, devotion, and steadfast partnership. In a sky full of pursuits, tragedies, transformations, and celestial catastrophes, this one is simply a husband and wife traveling together through the dark. No drama, no chase, just 2 stars side by side for eternity. The Saptarishi circle the northern sky endlessly, never setting across much of India, as timeless guides for both spiritual life and practical navigation. In Hindu cosmology, their role runs even deeper. Each great cosmic age, or yuga, has its own set of 7 sages, charged with preserving sacred knowledge across cycles of creation and destruction. The stars aren't just figures in a myth. They are the universe's way of making sure nothing essential gets lost. Which brings us to the star at the center of everything they circle, Polaris, known in Hindu tradition as Dhruva, the immovable one. And unlike most figures immortalized in the sky, Dhruva did not begin as a god or a hero or as a cosmic being of any kind. He began as a small boy who refused to accept no for an answer. Dhruva was a young prince, son of a king but born to a lesser queen. One day he climbed into his father's lap, as children do, only to be removed by the king's favored wife, who told him coldly that such an honor was not his to claim. His mother, unable to offer comfort, told him that if he wanted a place of honor, he would have to seek it from Vishnu himself. So Dhruva, who was 5 years old and apparently made of extraordinary material, walked into the forest to do exactly that. He meditated with a discipline that shamed far older ascetics, first living on fallen leaves, then water alone, then nothing at all, standing motionless for months with his mind fixed entirely on Vishnu. The gods, watching from above, grew increasingly uneasy. This child's concentration was so fierce it was disrupting the cosmic order. Vishnu, duly impressed, appeared before him. This is where the story turns unexpectedly tender. By the time the blessing came, Dhruva's earthly grievance had quietly dissolved. He had gone looking for a throne and found something larger instead. He wept, not from triumph, but from the realization of what he had been given and what, in his striving, he had become. And so Dhruva was placed at the still center of the turning sky, the fixed point around which everything else revolves, including the 7 sages themselves. A small boy once turned away from his father's lap, now holding the entire heavens in place. The story is, in its way, a perfect companion to the Saptarishi tradition. The sages circle endlessly, preserving knowledge, never resting. Dhruva stands still at the center, having found through striving not the throne he wanted, but the stillness he needed. 2 different answers to the same sky in the same tradition, circling each other for eternity. And finally, we cross to the Southern Hemisphere, because the Crux episode covered the Great Emu and the Dreaming, but the Māori traditions around the Southern Cross and the Milky Way are their own separate world, and they deserve their own telling. The story of how the stars got there in the first place was not told at all, so let's tell it now. A very long time ago, soon after the first people were placed on the earth, there were no stars in the sky at night. It was so dark that it was impossible to walk outside without tripping over things. Taniwha, powerful guardians of nature, lurked in the darkness and were said to feed at night on anything that moved. The world after sunset was not a safe place. At this time lived a great warrior named Tama Rereti, whose home was at the south end of the great lake we now call Topo. One morning he went fishing, fell asleep in his canoe, and drifted to the far shore of the lake. He awoke in darkness, too far from home to navigate safely. The Taniwha were abroad and faced with a problem. He cooked his fish, thought about his situation, and noticed something on the beach, luminescent pebbles glowing softly in the dark. He filled his canoe with them and set sail, scattering the glowing stones across the sky as he went. The wake of his canoe became the Milky Way. The stones became its stars. By the time he reached home, the sky was lit. In this tradition, the Southern Cross, Tapunga, is the anchor of Tama Rereti's waka, holding the great canoe of the Milky Way in place. The pointer stars of Centaurus are its rope. The navigational function of the Southern Cross, in other words, is not separate from the myth. It is built directly into it. The anchor holds the sky, in turn, guides the navigator home. There is a second, darker vision from Naitahu tradition in the South Island, and it is worth telling alongside the first because the two together say something the first alone does not. In this version, Tama Rereti was captivated by the Aurora Australis, the Southern Lights, and could not let the question of their origin go unanswered. He assembled an expedition, 70 young chiefs and 2 Tahunga, a crew worthy of a great voyage, and set sail into the Southern Ocean to find the source of the light. They sailed further south than any of them had ever gone, further south than any of their people had gone before, pushing into waters that grew colder and stranger with every day. Eventually, they reached the edge of the known world, giant cliffs of ice rising from the ocean, vast and silent. The aurora blazing above them in colors no one had words for yet. They had found what they came for, and then, at the moment of arrival, at the furthest point of the greatest voyage of Tama Rereti's life, surrounded by the lights he had crossed half the world to see, he ate a shrimp. It lodged in his throat. He choked on it and died. He died not in battle, not from the cold or the sea or the terrible journey south. It was a shrimp. The great warrior, the man whose wake became the Milky Way, who lit the stars for his people, undone by something small. Only the 2 Tahunga survived to carry the story home, and the story became a proverb. Small matters can bring down important people. The same man who lit the sky with stars is also the man who could not survive a shrimp. The Māori tradition held both versions simultaneously and saw no contradiction in doing so, because great people are both things, the ones who fill the sky with light and the ones who are vulnerable to the same small accidents as everyone else. 3 Constellations, 3 sets of stories that the main episode ran out of time for. A Cheyenne girl who sewed her family into the sky. A 5-year-old boy who meditated his way to the center of the universe. A warrior whose canoe wake became the Milky Way and who was also, in a different telling, killed by a shrimp. The sky is larger than any single episode can hold. These bonus episodes exist precisely because of that, because the stories keep coming and because the ones that don't fit the main narrative are often as worth telling as the ones that do. If there is a tradition, a myth, or a sky story you would like us to cover in a future bonus episode, we would genuinely like to hear it. Follow and subscribe wherever you listen, and find us on Instagram for images of the constellations and deep sky objects we talk about so you can follow along visually. Until next time, keep looking up. Every star has a story waiting to be told, even the ones we haven't gotten to yet.